This video is brought to you by GamerSubs. Use code MHB at checkout for 10% off your next order. For the past 3 years, in and around the month of May, I have a little tradition where I take the opportunity to play and platinum some Star Wars games. I've always been a huge Star Wars fan, it just makes sense, and in that time, I've platinumed some great games like all of the LEGO Star Wars games, the Force Unleashed series, Republic Commando, Jedi Fallen Order, and even the goofier Star Wars games like Episode 1 Racer and Angry Birds Star Wars, all of which have their own videos, wink wink. That's 10 platinum trophies in 3 years, which isn't too bad, but we can do better. The end goal has always been to eventually platinum every Star Wars game, which is a little tricky to do when you only play them a month out of the year, and new games keep releasing, or Sony is porting over and remastering the old games. So I figured it was time to lock in. As of this video, I have 15 Star Wars games still to platinum. 16 once the new Star Wars Galactic Racer drops later in the year, which I am so excited to play. So instead of waiting for May to roll around, I'll be platinuming a Star Wars game every few videos until we have them all complete, and we're doing it in their release order. Some Star Wars games don't have trophies or platinums to grab, and as a result, I won't be including those in this mission, but maybe in the future we can get back to them when it's all said and done. For now, I want to focus on getting the Star Wars series finished, and to start that in today's video, we're going back to 1995 with a game that would end up starting, or at least leading into the Jedi Knight series, Star Wars Dark Forces. Now, I never played Dark Forces growing up, which is saying something because I've played a whole lot of Star Wars games. In fact, damn near all the games we'll eventually be covering. But for one, I wasn't born yet in 1995, and two, by the time I did discover the series as a kid, I remember finding both Dark Forces 1 and 2 in the game shop, and just picking 2 because I saw it had lightsaber combat as well as shooting. Which, just a quick side note, I'd love them to remaster Dark Forces 2 as well. I haven't played it in damn near 2 decades now, but I would love to revisit that game and just pray it holds up. Anyway, the original Dark Forces I had never experienced before, and so I was excited to see how the game holds up because as someone who loves and grew up with so many of the great boomer shooters, I often hear this game's name pop up amongst the cult classics, and I want to finally know what I've been missing out on. In terms of the platinum, this one is pretty straightforward. So straightforward that we've just got the one step to worry about. We just need to beat the game. There's 30 trophies to unlock here, and as far as I can tell, there's not really any missable trophies. I mean, maybe technically there are, but it'd be 3 or 4 at most. You can replay the levels no problem, and honestly, you'd have to try real hard to actively avoid them to miss these. So let's get started. In Dark Forces, we play as Kyle Katarn, a mercenary who was formerly a part of the Imperial Army, joining the Imperials after believing the rebels killed his parents. Whilst in the Imperial Army, he met Jan Ors, a double agent working for the rebels, who tells him the Empire were actually responsible for his family's demise, and so Carl leaves the Empire to team up with Jan and help the rebels. Our first job is to recover the plans to the original Death Star, which as far as first levels goes, was great. I was a little wary going into this game as Doom clones were a dime a dozen back in the 90s, and while some were great, there were definitely some stinky ones as well. This first level put me at ease immediately, and I never looked back. It just immediately feels like Star Wars through a Doom filter, which I loved. It felt great to play, the shooting feels solid, I love how the enemies hit the Peter Griffin death pose, and the levels keep it simple at first to ease us into things. Small level, a couple of basic enemy types, no puzzles or labyrinths to traverse, and just the pistol and blaster to worry about. That being said, I did get lost here because it had been a long ass time since I'd played one of these games, and I realized waypoints and objective markers really spoiled me in modern gaming. This will happen more as we go on, but for the most part, a simple look around for a switch on the door or a keycard will get you on your way. Plus, there's a map you can pull up if you get a little turned around. Trophy wise, we grabbed 3 trophies in the first level for shooting a poor mouse droid, finding and stealing the Death Star plans, and returning to our ship to finish the level. That's sort of what I mean by missable trophies. Sure, you could not destroy a mouse droid the entire game, but there's plenty of them in the levels throughout, and they have batteries which you need for your flashlight. So are you going to miss that one? Probably not. Anyway, with the plans intact, you know how the story goes. Episode 4 happens, Luke and the rebels ultimately destroy the Death Star, and we pick things up again 1 year later with the rebels giving us another job. One of their bases has been attacked and we need to investigate what did it, because this was no ordinary stormtrooper attack. As we learn, it's the Empire's new project, the Dark Troopers, which are basically super stormtroopers, which is led by General Mock. You immediately can see the destruction in this level, and it feels quite grim to traverse with all the destroyed buildings and bodies scattered throughout. Once again, we grabbed another 3 trophies while exploring the level for finding the infrared goggles, turning on the base's power generator, and finally finding evidence of the Dark Troopers to gain our mission for the rest of the game. Put an end to the Dark Trooper project. I see you. Alright, that's one of the collectible trophies. Oh god, Telay Tac Base Handyman. We're getting trophies quick here. I've only been playing for like 15 minutes. Loose and incomplete. Find some Dark Trooper evidence. First stop, the sewers, to find the Imperial Weapons Specialist, Moff Rebus. This was a nice, quick level, not many enemies besides some droids and trash monsters, and a pretty simple puzzle to work your way through. But we add 2 more trophies to the total by entering the sewer and finding Moff Rebus tucked away in the stink pipes. Smells like progress. And we got some thermal detonators. No handshake needed, let's go. Thanks to Rebus, we learn about a weapons research facility on Fest and the Groma mines where the minerals for the Dark Troopers are extracted from. So that's our next 2 missions sorted. The weapons facility was our first stop, and this was my first real taste of that old school labyrinth, because this level is massive. Getting through the level though wasn't too bad. There were quite a few puzzles and some sketchy platforming moments, but all pretty quick and easy to figure out on our way through, picking up another 2 trophies for finding the secret code for the puzzle door and for eventually finding the metal sample used to create the Dark Troopers. Arabesh. Or a brush. What the frick? Man, let's skedaddle. Here's where the biggest problem I had with Dark Forces really became apparent though, because at the end of most levels, you finish the mission and need to backtrack all the way back to the start of the level to your ship to finish the level and move on. On a small or even linear map, annoying but not a big deal, which is why I haven't really mentioned it yet. But it's when you have these big ass levels that this is just such a pain in the ass. I was stuck on this level for an extra 15 minutes just trying to leave. There's so many branching paths, higher and lower levels, secret doors and areas, which going through I love exploring. But on the way back, even with the minimap, I was just lost as to how the hell I get out of here. Just a problem that didn't need to exist. Let me pick up the sample in this case and piss off to the next level. I really only bring this up because I'm sure there will be some trophy pops as we go through where I'm relieved that I don't have to backtrack, and I want to explain why. It was genuinely a moment at the end of every mission I was hoping I didn't have to do, because there's not really much to do on the way back. Enemies are pretty much gone, I've done all my exploring, it's just a memory game of how did I get here exactly? I hope it doesn't take me too long to figure out. Anyway, rant aside and onto the mines, which, I mean, come on, this is just hell. I love it though. Here we're on a mission to destroy the mining equipment, farming the resources that go into the Dark Troopers. This was one of my favorite levels. I love the red saturation, and it's a really fun map to traverse as you go through into the mines, take some more sketchy jumps, avoid mining machines, and watch your corners for the Empire lurking. It was great fun, but we make our way down to the bottom, set an explosive on the reactor, and face our first Phase 1 Dark Trooper fight, which thanks to the fusion cutter went down no problem, giving us 2 more trophies before finishing another level. Volatile reaction. Alright, this level was crazy. Whew, not fit for service. Holy crap. Yeah, this level, Jesus. We have to take a slight detour though and rescue a fellow rebel. Crix Maydeen has been captured by the Empire and sent to a detention center, and so off we go to rescue him in what is honestly the most challenging level in the game. This level took me 45 minutes to get through, which doesn't sound too crazy until you realize that the average level takes around 10 to 15 minutes tops, and this is one of those levels where you don't need to backtrack. That's all just progressing through the level. But what makes it so hard? Well, really, it's just the central puzzle. The gunfights and traversal are relatively standard. However, here there's two elevators we need to traverse in the level, going up and down the floors, stopping at each one, clearing out the Imperial units, finding secrets and goodies, and what feels like we're playing as normal. That's not really the goal though. The goal is to line the elevators up a certain way so you can use the tops of the elevators as platforms to get to the part of the level where Maydeen is kept. How do you figure that out? There is a small clue in the level, but honestly, without a guide, I'd have no bloody idea. I was stuck for a good 30 or so minutes trying to figure out the solution myself before I had to tap out and look up a guide to take me through it step by step. All that work for just a single trophy too, for ultimately finding and freeing Maydeen from certain death. No more detention. Yeah, that is a rough level. Jesus. Oh, thank God we don't have to go back to the start. Thankfully, the next mission is short and sharp. We just need to plant a tracking device on a smuggler's ship to find out where they're taking the Dark Trooper materials. This is your standard Doom level. Fight enemies, get keycards to progress, finish the level. It's quick, to the point, and after that last level, a breath of fresh air for yet another trophy for completing the level. Space Spycraft. Alright, cool. Do I have to go back to the ship or are you going to finish the level for me? The next mission had us placing 3 explosives to destroy a robotics facility responsible for the second stage of the Dark Trooper production and is set on an ice planet. Thankfully, almost immediately we find the ice cleats for a trophy and, more importantly, to avoid slipping and sliding around all over the place and go through the level as usual. Well, except this time we ride a conveyor belt through the level as we platform and blast our way along to plant the explosives. This is where we face off against a Phase 2 Dark Trooper, but once again, thanks to the mortar gun, it wasn't too bad either, as long as you can keep some distance, because they will destroy your shields and health quickly if you aren't careful. Getting another 2 trophies for taking care of the Dark Trooper and completing the level. Who put that there? Alright, thank God, because I hate ice levels. Woo! New upgrade, but same results. Holy crap, that scared me. I was not expecting him to just appear. The Terminator. Blow up the robotics facility. After our destruction so far, a bounty has been placed on our head, but we continue on trucking as now we need to find an Imperial navigation card. Another maze-like level, very easy to get lost here and lose track of what keycards open what door, but once we clear out the enemies, finding where to go becomes a lot easier in another pretty quick mission. Captured. Making good progress. Unfortunately, after completing the mission, we end up being captured by Jabba the Hutt, someone footing the bill for the Dark Trooper project, who doesn't like what we've been up to, taking all our gear and sending us to meet our end by facing off against the Kel Dragon. This is another missable trophy if you use cheats to get your weapons back, but if you just play as normal, we need to kill this beast with our bare hands. Not an easy feat though, and very easy to lose a couple of lives in the process, but as long as you don't get too greedy, eventually the dragon will fall. Dragon Puncher? Okay, I haven't defeated him, I don't know if you can see that. Now we need to escape, and in the beginning, this is a pretty tense situation. All we have at our disposal is grenades and mines, and you can get in tricky situations health-wise if you aren't careful. Thankfully, there aren't too many enemies during this phase of the level, and it doesn't take long to find our gear and get back to blasting our way through the level. Finding the Navicart again, and rescuing Jan before escaping for 4 trophies total in the level. Not too shabby. The Force not required. Alright, I got my guns back. Let's get out of here. This looks important, doesn't it? Bit of a blue key card. It won't be the last time. No, please I don't know where it would take me, but yeah, let's just finish this level. The next mission is another massive level with a pretty tricky puzzle to boot, as we need to make our way into the Imperial City on Coruscant and decrypt the Navicard. As you can imagine, this level being in the heart of the Empire means there are a ton of enemies to fight along the way here, so plenty of gunplay to keep us busy as we find the Imperial City. A safe space. Inside is where it gets a little trickier though, as we have yet another puzzle that is tough but doable without any help. You need to reach the center of the vault to decrypt the Navicard, but to do so means pressing the right buttons to activate the doors to open in the correct spots. This does take some trial and error, like a lot of trial and error, but eventually after going back and forth a fair few times, I got the sequence down and decrypted the card, after which of course I had to head back to the start, but at least we get another boss fight this time on the way. Time to get rid of Boba Fett, who General Mock sent after us. Again, another easy fight, as are all the bosses if you couldn't tell, but cool to see Boba make an appearance nonetheless. Vault Cracker. Sorry, Boba. Too easy. Salak Snack. Onto the final stretch now, as we learn the location of the smuggler fueling station and need to commandeer a ship to blend in. This level was yet another example of Jimmy getting super lost and honestly frustrated. We made our way through the level as normal, cruising through to the inner core. Here we need to make our way across by pressing all the switches to move the path around to get us across. A painfully slow process thanks to the bridge taking an eternity, but nothing too taxing. The issue I had was the switch you need to press to unlock the smuggler ship doesn't give you any feedback after you press it, just a sound. So I pressed it a few times to make sure it worked since I didn't really know what it did. This mistake meant I kept going back and forth between this room and where the smuggler ship should be a couple of times trying to figure out what I did wrong, and every time needing to sit through this stupid bridge going through its damn 50-year cycle. Now yes, that was due to my own mistake, but a simple light up for the button avoids all this and saves me at least 30 minutes. Eventually I got it right, hijacked the smuggler ship, and can move on to the final two levels. Drive it like you stole it. That level took so long because the stupid switch is not clear. Ugh, that was a pain. We board the first starship, the Executor, which is a short 5-minute level. Really just to get us to board a cargo shipment to make it across to the Arc Hammer, where General Mock's HQ is based, and the final stage of the Dark Trooper project. Headed in the right direction. Of course, the final level is quite a step up in challenge. More Dark Troopers as standard enemies, plenty of platforming on tight beams, hidden away switches to open doors and set our explosives. I did get a little turned around here, of course. It's not hard to when a Dark Trooper could be lurking around any corner, but this was a great last hurrah as we slowly progress, setting all three explosives up and ultimately facing off against Mock in Dark Trooper armor, which once again was absolutely no trouble at all. Taking out the final boss, setting the starship to destruct, and completing the game along with unlocking the Platinum Trophy. Don't mock me! Alright, it's the final boss done, now we just need to escape and the Platinum is... Oh! Mine. The final hammer blow. And completionist. That is Dark Forces Platinum. I really enjoyed that. It feels good to get back to like a Doom, classic Doom style shoot every now and again. This is a really good one. I would have really liked this as a kid. Glad I finally played it, but I need Dark Forces 2 remastered. I need to see it. So, after 5 hours in total, what did I think of Star Wars Dark Forces Platinum and the game in general? I honestly had so much fun here. I grew up with these types of games, either playing or watching my dad play them, and so I have a real soft spot for a good boomer shooter. This is exactly that. It feels like Doom got a Star Wars paint job, and I'm totally okay with that. The levels are all really unique from one another, the enemy count and variety grows with each level, the arsenal is really solid, and the story is a simple cool but fun romp through the Star Wars galaxy. Again, could do without the backtracking and the lack of directions at times, but that's sort of the era we're going back to here, and I'm not going to knock it too much for being that way. As for the platinum, pretty stock standard, play the game and get a new shiny platinum, which aren't always my favorite. I just wish there was a bit more to it, like finding all the secrets or even just kill totals with the weapons to mix things up would have been cool. I felt like I stuck with the blaster a lot, saving the big weapons for the bosses, and it would have been nice to encourage some mixing and matching in the trophy list. But as is, it's a short 4 to 8 hour classic shooter experience that feels right at home with the best of its era, and it's definitely a game I am really glad I finally experienced. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far in the video, make sure to leave a comment with BOOMER! 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 Because that's all I can think about when I hear Boomer Shooter, and let me know that you made it to the end. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment below and let me know which Star Wars games you're excited to see me platinum most. Shout out to the channel members for that extra level of support, and special thanks to members of the Bear Club, It's Grey J, Darkwolf, Safado, Lug Knights, Golden Sparrow, Lord Alex, Kuzma, Jarvis McGee, Briganius, and Steel Vanguard. Thank you all, and I'll catch you in the next one.